Good morning. Welcome to Auburn, Alabama, RSBN Live. I'm Robert McNeely. There on the split screen, a shot of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. President Trump working this week for the most part at Mar-a-Lago at the Southern Winter White House. Of course, you might have caught him at the Daytona 500. His second time doing it. The first time was 2020. 2 laps around in the Beast. He had some family with him, specifically his adorable granddaughter, Carolina, who walked out on the track with him. And what a nice custom jacket for the President of the United States. We hope that you had some time to reflect yesterday during President's Day, the greatness of our wonderful country, of course. We set aside that day specifically for Abraham Lincoln, our 16th president, whose birthday is February 12th, and of course, the founder of the feast, George Washington, the great general, his birthday, February 22nd. But yesterday we were celebrating President Trump and Jim Jordan. It was his birthday yesterday as well, to the great congressman from the Buckeye State. Today, the Texas State Senate hearing is expected to begin very soon. This is on Bitcoin. And this is probably of interest to most of you viewers at home, because we know that this is the way of the future. I know my friends are talking to me on group texts on a regular basis about Bitcoin this, Bitcoin that, and President Trump. We have footage from back in July when he went to that Bitcoin conference in Nashville, Tennessee. Not necessarily a friendly audience per se, but that group really turned his direction when he talked about deregulating the industry and allowing for more trading of that. Now, speaking of your retirement, your savings, spending money on what's important, especially if you have a kid about to go to college, let's talk about Colonial Metals Group. Thank you for sponsoring us here at Right Side Broadcasting. Scan that QR code now, and this will shield your savings for 2025 and beyond. In this book, it shows at 1971 until 2024, gold buying its power up 7,000%, because in 71, we let go of the gold standard during the Nixon administration. This has gone up in wealth and so much interest for your own dividends because we keep printing money. And we saw that especially with inflation skyrocketing over the course of the last 4 years. And one of the big items that Brooke Rollins, the new Secretary of Agriculture, has to tackle is bringing down the cost of eggs. This is all tied into this. And of course, we have the wonderful Paul Stone, the CEO, on a regular basis. He should be joining us once again this Friday to talk the ins and outs of gold, silver, precious metals. But whether you have properties, assets, a 401k, an IRA, smart to convert those into gold and silver, the precious metals, but you can scan that QR code now. Shield your savings. Even Warren Buffett putting billions of dollars into different market economies to protect himself. So gold, silver, precious metals, the way to go. Thank you for Colonial Metals Group sponsoring us here at Right Side Broadcasting Live. And before we get to that hearing at the bottom of the hour, of course, that beautiful split shot there of the U.S. Capitol building, where we are expecting 6 more cabinet appointees yet to be confirmed. That's Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick, Secretary of Labor, also Secretary of Education Linda McMahon in that role, ideally, the U.S. Trade Representative, also UN Ambassador. How about the great Elise Stefanik? And SBA Administrator, none other than Kelly Loeffler. And Senator Markwayne Mullins on X saying they are getting to those votes as soon as possible. We have Howard Lutnick scheduled for February 18th, time to complete the cabinet. Kash Patel might have a preliminary vote with the entire Senate, ideally moving to cloture today. We'll keep an eye on that for you as you are joining us here live 5 minutes after 9 o'clock on the East Coast. If you're up super early on the West Coast, good morning as well. 6:05 in the Golden State of California. I'm Robert McNeely. It's a pleasure to join you today. And Mr. Director, do we have those clips ready of President Trump? Okay, wonderful. We'll throw to a couple of those now, just so you can get a glimpse of what he was talking about with the Bitcoin back in July and set us up for the state Senate hearing in Texas today.
Upon taking office, I will immediately appoint a Bitcoin and Crypto Presidential Advisory Council. Would anybody like to be on that particular council? Please raise your hand. Their task will be to design transparent regulatory guidance for the benefit of the entire industry, and they will get it done in 100 days. We will have regulations, but from now on, the rules will be written by people who love your industry, not hate your industry, people that want to make it clear and simple, straightforward and fair, people that want to see your industry thrive, not die. This afternoon, I'm laying out my plan to ensure that the United States will be the crypto capital of the planet and the Bitcoin superpower of the world, and we'll get it done. If crypto is going to define the future, I want to be mined, minted, and made in the USA. It's going to be. It's not going to be made anywhere else. And if Bitcoin is going to the moon, as we say, it's going to the moon, I want America to be the nation that leads the way. And that's what's going to happen. No, you're going to be very happy with me. You're going to be so happy. You're going to say he's the greatest guy. That's why I'm proud to be the first major party nominee in American history to accept donations in Bitcoin and crypto. It should be no surprise that these same totalitarians are hell-bent on crushing crypto and obliterating, and that's what they want to do, and that's what they are stated. Well, I mean, they're there right now. You have the SEC, you know what they're doing, obliterating Bitcoin. The reason could not be more clear, because Bitcoin stands for freedom, sovereignty, and independence from government, coercion, and control. The Biden-Harris administration's repression of crypto and Bitcoin is wrong, and it's very bad for our country. It's really quite un-American. Upon taking office, I will immediately appoint a Bitcoin and crypto presidential advisory council. Would anybody like to be on that particular council? Please raise your hand. Their task will be to design transparent regulatory guidance for the benefit of the entire industry, and they will get it done in 100 days. We will have regulations, but from now on, the rules will be written by people who love your industry, not hate your industry, people that want to make it clear and simple, straightforward and fair, people that want to see your industry thrive, not dive.
And now we could call him not only the people's president, but the Bitcoin president, receiving donations in Bitcoin, the first major party candidate to do that. Of course, he wants to deregulate it on a global scale so that you can now trade in that with your commodities. So this just gives the power back to the American people. And, you know, we are in the 21st century. We had Vice President J.D. Vance visiting France for that wonderful AI summit as well. So with all these new technologies, if we can harness this for good, it will help not only American sovereignty and security, but also your wallet at home. And we'd like to thank our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live, RepublicanRed.com. It's a wonderful Wine Wednesday. Well, not quite yet. It's Tuesday. But if you enjoy a Wine Wednesday, how about the 45-47 red blend? There are many shades of red, whether you proudly like the red or enjoy more of a sparkling glass of wine. Together, Republicans can join in growing a toast to the silent majority. A majority silent no longer. How about the sparkling wine over here? The golden age of America, a nice toast. We've taken the House, the Senate, and put our champion back in the White House. Let's raise the glass to the power of American patriotism. The best is yet to come. This is a family-run business dedicated to producing 100% American-made wine. These bold wines let others know where you stand, inspire important conversations, and with over 50,000 delighted customers, it extends exceptional quality and outstanding customer service. This is family-run, family-owned, a generational business, and a portion of your proceeds go to conservative and Republican efforts. Use offer code RSBN at checkout for an additional $5 off your order. Go to RepublicanRed.com and select your favorite wines that shipped directly to your doorstep. RepublicanRed.com It's republicanred.com, code RSBN for an additional $5 off. It's a Golden Age sparkling wine and a red blend, all tributes to our wonderful president, Donald Trump, 45 and 47, republicanred.com. And thank you again for joining us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live as you get a live look at the United States Capitol as they seek to complete this cabinet role. And, you know, they will be going on recess relatively soon. A lot of March. They at least have 1 week off for spring break. You know, I have this interesting balance in my head because I like when they're gone because it means they can't hurt us necessarily. They can't put too many more regulations or too many wild bills out there at the same time. What a great gig to be a United States congressman, and something where we might have to look towards term limits for these guys, because most states have found a way to get their legislatures to have term limits or their governors to be term limited. But it's those who spend 30, 40, 50 years on Capitol Hill who have been the real problem. People like Nancy Pelosi, who likes to trade in stocks. You know, arguably, is it ethical? I mean, Martha Stewart went to prison for the same reason as many of those people on Capitol Hill become very, very, very wealthy. We'll talk to Matt Gaetz about that, hopefully over at CPAC. We'll be interviewing many wonderful people in the movement, and that is going to be Thursday, Friday, and Saturday this week. We'll be heading out there tomorrow to National Harbor, Maryland. So we hope you tune in. If you're not attending yourself, it would be wonderful to see all y'all wonderful patriots in the National Harbor just south of our wonderful District of Columbia, the federal city. So looking forward to that coverage. Christina Loren and Ashley Brassfield will be joining yours truly, and Mr. Matthew Alvarez will be holding down the fort here in Auburn, Alabama, as we look towards really the first large grassroots activity post the 2024 election. And if you have not been to a CPAC, it truly is not only the power players in the room and the movers and shakers within the corridors and halls of Congress, but those in real America, as I call it, the outside of the Beltway, who are making massive change and difference on a daily basis in their hometown, their precincts, their counties. This battle is doorstep by doorstep, phone call by phone call to convert and join in this wonderful big tent movement of populist politics, and really we the people versus a globalist deep state that has really been damaged. And I think their ideology really going away, but you have to remain vigilant. And with the 2026 elections just around the corner, great to prepare now for all of that. We will be going to the Texas State Senate shortly for a hearing that's expected to begin very, very soon, scheduled for 9:30 Eastern Standard Time this morning. And the focus is Bitcoin, the deregulation of it, even the regulation of it. This should be a fascinating discussion for those of you interested in Bitcoin and all it does have to offer. I know that my friends are often telling me about Bitcoin. I've invested some myself. It's an interesting commodity. It's invisible. Of course, our government wants to tax and regulate it, especially those coming from the Democrat caucus. We've heard some of this from the federal level. In fact, there's been discussion of somewhat of a U.S. currency that could be all online versus the dollar as well. So we are definitely living in the future. You know, I like to joke around that if you watch Back to the Future, that great movie from the 80s, so much of those things that were predicted have now come true in roughly 35, 36 years, including a Chicago Cubs World Series championship. But they were just 1 year off from that prediction, 2016 respectively. The movie thought it would be the Florida Marlins versus the Chicago Cubs in 2015, but it was the Cleveland Indians and my Chicago Cubs successful in 2016. So for the sports fans out there, thank you and welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. Focus on a Bitcoin discussion today, as President Trump highlighted this back in July. And with those clips we showed earlier, he was very much in a room that I don't know if he knew what kind of reception he would get, but he explained to those investors, hey, I'm one of you. I'm the first major party candidate for president who actually took donations in Bitcoin. I want to deregulate this. I want you to have the powers that be at your fingertips, because it will turn into a stronger consumer-based economy. And that's every action President Trump has done thus far has been related to deregulation. So if you're just joining us, Mr. Director, I think we could play those 3 clips again so people might be able to catch that at home. Oh, wonderful. We'll toss that right over now and show you what happened back in July.
I will immediately appoint a Bitcoin and Crypto Presidential Advisory Council. Would anybody like to be on that particular council? Please raise your hand. Their task will be to design transparent regulatory guidance for the benefit of the entire industry, and they will get it done in 100 days. We will have regulations, but from now on, the rules will be written by people who love your industry, not hate your industry, people that want to make it clear and simple, straightforward and fair, people that want to see your industry thrive, not dive. Upon taking office, I will immediately appoint a Bitcoin and Crypto Presidential Advisory Council. Would anybody like to be on that particular council? Please raise your hand. Their task will be to design transparent regulatory guidance for the benefit of the entire industry, and they will get it done in 100 days. We will have regulations, but from now on, the rules will be written by people who love your industry, not hate your industry, people that want to make it clear and simple, straightforward and fair, people that want to see your industry thrive, not dive. This afternoon, I'm laying out my plan to ensure that the United States will be the crypto capital of the planet and the Bitcoin superpower of the world, and we'll get it done. If crypto is going to define the future, I want to be mined, minted, and made in the USA. It's going to be. It's not going to be made anywhere else. And if Bitcoin is going to the moon, as we say, it's going to the moon, I want America to be the nation that leads the way. And that's what's going to happen. No, you're going to be very happy with me. You're going to be so happy. You're going to say he's the greatest guy. That's why I'm proud to be the first major party nominee in American history to accept donations in Bitcoin and crypto. It should be no surprise that these same totalitarians are hell-bent on crushing crypto and obliterating, and that's what they want to do, and that's what they are stated. They're there right now. You have the SEC, you know what they're doing, obliterating Bitcoin. The reason could not be more clear, because Bitcoin stands for freedom, sovereignty, and independence from government, coercion, and control. The Biden-Harris administration's repression of crypto and Bitcoin is wrong, and it's very bad for our country. It's really quite un-American.
There you have President Trump from July on the campaign trail in Nashville, Tennessee, at that Bitcoin conference, saying that he wants America to be the Bitcoin king, the capital for all of that. And again, the first major party candidate to accept those donations in Bitcoin. So really an amazing conference. You can hear the chuckles in the crowd of, oh, you're going to love me. You love those moments when President Trump goes off script. He doesn't need a teleprompter, and definitely his predecessor did need that teleprompter, so it's nice to have a commander-in-chief that speaks from the heart. Speaking about assets, commodities, Bitcoin, gold, just your personal finances with paper money, tax day is coming up, so go to taxnetworkusa.com, tnusa.com/RSBN. The experts at Tax Network USA Incorporated settle your back taxes today, right now. They are patriots. They know how to handle the IRS. They share our values. So give them a call right now, 800-357-1415. Do this today. Do not delay. Protect yourself from the IRS. We know Joe Biden put over 80,000 new IRS agents into place during his tenure, and President Trump might send some of those folks to the border to assist with the Army Corps of Engineers and the Marines who are down there doing a marvelous job. But until then, make sure you talk to the Patriot advisors at Tax Network USA. Settle those back taxes now. TNUSA.com/RSBN. We know that tax day is quickly approaching, April 15th, so give them a call today, 800-357-1415. Thank you to Tax Network USA. And American Finance, a wonderful company that can save you an average of $800 per month on your mortgage. They can even delay the next 2 months of payments if you give them a contact today. So that's $1,600 in savings over the course of the next 2 months. Very smart. If you've purchased a home recently, rates might be up for you in your neck of the woods. So American Financing, also great patriots to help with your property as well. Save an average of $800 per month. Go to americanfinancing.net/RSBN. It's americanfinancing.net/RSBN and learn how you can save big on that today. And if you're just joining us, we are getting towards the near end of the, or middle of the hour, 9:22 on the East Coast here. You see that beautiful shot of the U.S. Capitol. I'm Robert McNeely, live, Right Side Broadcasting Network. Thank you for joining us today. You might have saw late afternoon, early evening yesterday, Delta Flight 4819 was a scheduled international passenger flight from Minneapolis, St. Paul to Toronto Pearson International Airport. This is somewhat of a routine path as well. It's a CRJ 900 commercial regional jet that actually literally flipped over. And thank God that the flight had 80 people on board, consisting of 76 passengers, 4 crew members. All passengers and crews did survive. So thank God for that. All 80 people walked away from that plane, with the exception of 18 injuries reported. So everyone safe, but injuries sustained. We'll dive more into that as we receive more information, as Breaking 911 actually had some remarkable footage just prior to the crash, if you want to see that on their X account. So everyone is okay there. And it gives us, somewhat of a nervous reaction, being that still in North America and the United States specifically, air travel is the safest form of travel. So continue to do that if you need to, whether it's work or pleasure, especially getting away from these wild temperatures that are going throughout the country, especially how cold it's been with these storms. We do know over the weekend as well, Timothy Cardinal Dolan of New York, he was en route to Ireland. And his plane actually diverted to St. John's, Newfoundland after about 3 hours. He celebrated Catholic Mass there on Sunday morning and with his counterpart in Canada, and actually welcomed him back to New York sometime. They had not met before, apparently, or it's been a number of years. So there have been some wild storms out there that we are keeping our eye on and watching closely, and learning more about what took place yesterday with Flight 4819. It was a Delta connection from Minneapolis, St. Paul to Toronto, the Pearson International Airport in Canada. So everyone survived, all 80 aboard that flight, 76 passengers, 4 crew, once again, 18 injuries reported. And the Canadian authorities will actually be overlooking that investigation as to why that took place. Of course, Secretary Sean Duffy of the Transportation Department was right on top of it, and is also looking into that to help partner with the Canadian counterparts. So we'll stay on that for you if we have more update information regarding what took place yesterday. Thank you to Brightcore, one of our fine sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. Made in the USA. I actually take their Kimchi One. It's a great way to start with gut health in the morning, that immune support and anti-aging properties that give you the energy that goes straight to your brain, whether it's, a long day at work, or you just want to spend more time with friends and family and actually be present with them. This is a great way to make sure that gut health is getting those probiotics and prebiotics into your system so that you can be more effective in your day-to-day routine. Why don't you buy 2 and get 1 free right now by visiting mybrightcore.com/RSBN or call 888-722-0936 That's buy two, get one free. Visit mybrightcore.com/RSBN. Receive up to 50% off now. That number one more time, 888-722-0936. And while you're at taking care of your gut, why don't you get that MAGA Man Cave or MAGA Office souvenir known as the Trump Combat Knife. Claim your 30% off using code RSBN30. Yes, scan that QR code right now. This is a limited time edition combat knife with the Trump insignia on it from the last campaign. You won't want to miss out on this, and you'd like to show it off to your friends when they come on over for a nice sporting event and a cold beverage. So get your limited edition Trump combat knife at checkout. This is 30% off. Claim it now using code RSBN30. So you can scan that QR code, make it real easy for you. PatriotDeals.com and AngelPaste.com. What a great way to make sure those hands don't get too dry in this cold weather. It's even pretty cold today in Auburn, Alabama, believe it or not. But AngelPaste.com, the Miracle Cream, their premier item, and they have several to choose from if you go to the website. One that actually repels mosquitoes. They're out of Spring, Texas, a nice Christian company that hires many veterans as well. So this is made in America, non-GMO, no chemicals. You know what you're putting on your skin that gets absorbed is actually healthy and full of essential vitamins to make sure that your skin is glowing. I actually tried some here not so long ago in the studio. I had really dry hands. It was bad one day, and they were glowing and they felt great. And guys, you could actually grab that tackle box after you use it. Trust me on this. It doesn't have that after effect, that stickiness like some other creams do. And you know that it doesn't have the chemicals either. So angelpaste.com, and your money going to a wonderful Christian company outside of Houston, Texas, in the lovely suburb of Spring, Texas. So go over there today and get that for your significant other or yourself, because it's pretty much essential at this point. How about mypillow.com/RSBN? The mega sale. Our good friend, Mr. Mike Lindell in Minnesota, is offering up his own My Cross. Save 30% on the replica of what he wears when he's talking about his faith, his family, his country, and of course his wonderful company, the mypillow.com. You can call them at 800-836-7566. And how about some My Towels for $29.98? That's a six-pack right there. Or the flannel sheets for $44.98. We love those flannel sheets. He has the essentials to make sure you start your day right. I really enjoyed the My Coffee. The My Slippers are so comfortable. I've been using the My Pillow ever since they came out. And I could tell you, his staff, one of the most kind and courteous professionals I've ever encountered. So this mega sale is just absolutely fantastic. mypillow.com/RSBN for up to 80% off of over 2,000 items. You heard me correctly, 2,000 items. mypillow.com/RSBN. Thank you to Mr. Mike Lindell. And a complete side note, we've heard that Governor Tim Walz is likely to run for the U.S. Senate. So promises made, promises kept from Kamala Harris and Tim Walz that they won't be going quietly into the night. Oh, sigh. But that does leave an open seat for the governorship of Minnesota. I don't know if Mr. Mike Lindell is thinking about that. I like to encourage him here on the show. Maybe we can get him on soon to discuss his future plans. But regardless, mypillow.com/RSBN, a wonderful Christian-based company to make sure you get a great start to your day. The Texas State Senate hearing is expected to begin soon on Bitcoin. You will not want to miss this exciting hearing because you don't usually get these kind of discussions at the government level. We'll probably see more and more of it as Bitcoin becomes more prevalent and as governments want to potentially regulate it or deregulate it. Of course, President Trump wants to be the Bitcoin president and presented that to the Bitcoin conference back in July, really that being a highlight of his campaign. And there you see 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. On the president's schedule today, he's actually down at the Winter White House in Mar-a-Lago. He has expected to sign more executive orders at 4 p.m. Other than that, nothing in the pool right now. We'll be watching to see if anything does come across the docket. But President Trump, really just looking to have his last 6 appointees sent to the cabinet to bring them all together, and I can't wait for that picture of the cabinet together for the first time. We're waiting on votes for the Secretary of Commerce, expecting that actually today for a cloture vote on Howard Lutnick, the Secretary of Labor as well. Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, speaking to the Health and Education, Labor and Pensions Committee just last week. She was also with family members of her, Paul Levesque, her son-in-law. You might better know him as Triple H, his stage name from World Wrestling Entertainment. He's married, of course, to the beautiful Stephanie McMahon, her daughter. And remember the robust bad guy. If you were a big wrestling fan, as I was as a kid, Hulk Hogan was my personal favorite. I got to meet Ric Flair, actually, at the Hartsfield-Jackson Airport in Atlanta last summer as we were traveling on the campaign. That was a pretty cool moment. But Shane McMahon was there as well. So Vince and Linda's son, who always played kind of the bad guy role, but he was there supporting his mom, and a gentleman of the highest order as he is. So it was great to see, a family affair as they seek to bring education prowess back to the states. They truly are the Federalists focused on states' rights, that 10th Amendment. It's exciting to see cabinet members or potential cabinet members like Linda McMahon at Education or the future SBA, the Small Business Administration Director, Kelly Loeffler, who wants to decrease the size and the scope of the federal government and bring that back to the states to make it more efficient for you, the American people, because as President Trump's former rival, Governor Jeb Bush of Florida, you remember during the primaries, they had some great battles in 2016, and President Trump not only stopped the dynasty of the Clinton legacy, but also the Bush dynasty, which was exciting on the Republican side, of course, but even Governor Bush saying that education truly is the great equalizer in America. No child should be left behind based on their zip code and based on their access to education. When you deregulate that, when you take it away from the federal government's purview of the one-size-fits-all, of the No Child Left Behind, which was an absolute bipartisan, global, deep state disaster that went against we the people, you're able to give people access in a way to get ahead unlike anything else. I got to see this firsthand during those lockdowns in Chicago, when many students were relying on their lunch or their first meal of the day just going to school. And the Chicago Teachers Union with Randy Weingardner took full advantage of people, of working families, working moms and dads, and students who are literally out of school for over a year. It should never happen in America. And they are focused on solving those problems. So excited to see Ms. McMahon taking that position potentially. Of course, the U.S. Trade Representative needs to be filled. How about the UN Ambassador, the Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, waiting on that hearing and vote? And of course, as I mentioned, Kelly Loeffler over at SBA. So 6 vacancies right now. Hopefully the Senate will move before recess in order to get that done. But thus far, President Trump has had every one of his nominees put forth actually take seat in the cabinet. So an exciting time to see that for the American people, a group of traditional conservative Republicans and traditional liberal Democrats who have really put this populist mission forward to make America strong again, to make America healthy again, and to make America safe again, but ultimately to make America strong again. And I found it most interesting. I'm just looking at the votes here on my computer. Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. Think about this, 52-48, the same amount of votes. And with Mitch McConnell going with Democrats, mind you, they were Democrats. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard ran for president in 2020 as a Democrat. You might remember her primary, and she called out then Senator Kamala Harris for putting people in jail when she was a DA in San Francisco for low-level drug crimes, people that did not have the means to hire an attorney, who had their trials delayed greatly. Of course, the Sixth Amendment guarantees a speedy trial here in America. We've seen with political prisoners, whether that be J6 or those protesting Planned Parenthood as pro-life protesters, they did not receive that in the last administration. Tulsi Gabbard called her out on that, and rightfully so. So a lot of kudos to Tulsi Gabbard and the rest of the secretaries who are working at a breakneck pace to make America great again. Again, Colonial Metals. Let's thank our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting. Get this free gold guide. You can see in here great patriots like the judge, Jeanine Pirro. She's a stalwart in the movement. And also Larry Kudlow, who helped bring tax reform to the American people in the first term. All endorse Colonial Metals Group, and Paul Stone, the wonderful CEO. Look at the rising price of gold from 1971 to 2024. It's a little bright there, I know, on your screen. Up over 7,000% ever since the Nixon administration moved away from the gold standard. So this is the thing to do. Whether it's properties, assets, your 401k or IRA, make sure you have this commodity that stood the test of time. Gold, silver, precious metals. Scan that QR code right now. Do as Warren Buffett's doing, investing in gold, taking it out of the stock market and putting it into tangible, precious metals. Scan that QR code now for your free 2025 gold guide, Colonial Metals Group. No obligation, by the way. Just a good option to see what's right for you and your family. Well, thank you for joining us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. It's 9:36 a.m. on the East Coast, and we're going to a quick commercial break, but stay with us. I'm Robert McNeely. We'll see you on the other side.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live Show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
Families across the nation have arrived at a heartbreaking crossroad to surrender their beloved animals at alarming rates due to inflation and soaring costs of living.
There are so many overcrowded shelters. So many dogs need a home, but it's all of us working together to solve this crisis.
This fight requires both doers and dollars. Join us at Big Dog Ranch Rescue. Please sign up today.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed, because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Good morning. Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. I'm Robert McNeely. That's a live shot of our People's House, the White House at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in our nation's capital. Of course, yesterday was President's Day. We hope you had some time either off of work or just to reflect on the legacy of the American presidency, and perhaps no better representative, at least in the modern era, than President Donald John Trump. Of course, we had Silk on the show yesterday, and she said he's the greatest president for a number of reasons, but also for being like Cyrus, for being like David, for being prophetic and taking on this role, leading his people out of bondage. That's President Donald John Trump. And we've seen his enthusiasm as the first president to go to the Super Bowl. That was Super Bowl 59, roughly about now 9 days ago. And of course, for the second time, attending the Daytona 500 with that lovely jacket. I would like a replica of that because that was pretty cool to see. And joined by Carolina and other family members of his to take 2 laps around in the Beast. Thank you to our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. We love RepublicanRed.com. And let me tell you about this wonderful organization. You need to be ready to toast the golden age of America. Whether you prefer the white, the red, the sparkling, Republican Red Winery has patriotic wines that your friends can rave about. And whether it's a Wine Wednesday, get this label here for you there, 4547. You're going to enjoy this at any kind of party throughout the year. Be sure to check out the iconic 4547 Pinot Noir as well. I can actually grab the red option, see both aptly named 4547. They pay tribute to, of course, President Trump. And I love the toasts on here, specifically the golden age of America. We've taken the House, the Senate, and put the champion back in the White House. So let's raise a toast to the MAGA movement, to the silent majority and the power of American patriotism. The best is yet to come, all in caps. So I think it's something you can enjoy. With these bold wines, they let others know where you stand, inspire important conversations, and with over 50,000 delighted customers, Republican Red Winery has earned a sterling reputation for exceptional quality and outstanding customer service. Go to RepublicanRed.com to support this generational family-run business dedicated to producing 100% American-made wines. This is out of the Central Coast of California. To celebrate the golden age, they're offering a special discount. Use offer code RSBN, easy to remember, RSBN for an additional $5 off your order. Go to RepublicanRed.com, select your favorites. That's RepublicanRed.com. Let's make America thirsty again for a lovely Wine Wednesday or whatever you might be celebrating at home. Code RSBN. And the Texas State Senate hearing is expected to begin soon, roughly at 10:30 Eastern, so that'd be 9:30 Central for you, all y'all in the Lone Star State. We love the beautiful state of Texas, which actually has a bigger and higher GDP than the entire state of Canada. And yes, I said that correctly, the 51st state. We look forward to the finals of the Four Nations ice off there with the hockey team. If you saw over the weekend, there was some booing of the national anthem, which was warned by the PA announcer not to do, but some Canadian citizens chose to do that. And we saw our USA team lay a literal beatdown on the Canadian team, beating them 3-1 with 3 fights in the first 9 minutes. We don't advocate for violence here at RSBN Network Live, of course, but always nice to see our fighters on the ice taking care of business. So you can catch that final. I believe that's tomorrow. I'll double check on that game for you. But we look forward to the Canadians coming to become Americans. Well, they're North Americans, but the 51st state, as President Trump has spoken of prior. Now, we have that hearing coming up on Bitcoin at 10:30 Eastern. And also, we have a clip from Marco Rubio, somewhat of a Q&A, our Secretary of State. We'll toss to that now and see what he is up to as he's been on a breakneck tour, just like President Trump. We'll head on over to Secretary of State Marco Rubio now.
Trump for doing. He's been able to achieve what for 2.5-3 years no one else has been able to achieve, which is to begin this process, a serious process. Obviously, a lot of work remains before we have a result, but President Trump's the only one that can do it.
Look, it's common sense. If you're going to bring both sides together, you have to talk to both sides. And we'll continue to remind everyone, literally within minutes of President Trump hanging up with President Putin, he called and spoke with President Zelensky. So shuttle diplomacy has happened throughout history. It's happened all over the world. We are absolutely talking to both sides. The Secretary of State just met with President Zelensky days ago, along with the Vice President, 7 cabinet members in Europe at the same time, really showing the importance of engaging our allies. President Trump spoke with President Macron just yesterday. Prime Minister Starmer is coming to Washington next week. So I think the facts will continue to push back on this notion that our allies haven't been consulted. They are being consulted literally almost on a daily basis, and will continue to do so.
Did you set a date for the two presidents to meet at this meeting? When can we expect that meeting?
We did not. We did not set that date, but the two presidents talked about meeting and expect to meet.
Can you take us a little bit in the room today? What was the interaction like? How would you characterize the discussions?
It was positive, upbeat, constructive. Everybody there to get to the right outcome, solution-based. We discussed it afterwards. We couldn't have imagined a better result after this session. It was very, very solid.
Will you be traveling to Russia again, Mr. Witkoff?
I'm not sure, but we'll make that determination in the next couple of weeks.
The Europeans, Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister, has said the U.S. needs to back any sort of European solution to the war. Is this something that you are willing to commit to?
Well, I think that's something that we'll continue to discuss. We have certainly, again, as a first principle, a European-led security guarantee. We have the President, many of us, as members of prior members of Congress ourselves, have called for the Europeans to continue to contribute to our common defense, to continue to share the burden of NATO defense. We'll continue to point out that while things have improved, starting with President Trump's first term, the fact that a third of our NATO allies still do not contribute the minimum of 2% of their GDP to defense a decade after that we all collectively made that agreement isn't acceptable. We have the NATO summit coming up this June, and we would expect with the type of conflict, the type of warfare and destruction we've seen in Europe, sadly, the last several years, that we have 100% at the minimum, and in fact are exceeding that. So, look, this is a common effort. This isn't just about what the United States is going to continue to contribute and what we are going to continue to ask of the American taxpayer. We all have to make those tough decisions. We all have to contribute to our common defense, and we expect that this to be a two-way street for our European allies. And the fact that both the United Kingdom, France, and others are talking about contributing more forcefully to Ukraine's security, we think is a good thing.
Did you walk away from this meeting convinced the Russians want peace? You said it might take some time to be convinced of that. How are you seeing it now?
I mean, I don't view diplomacy that way. I think diplomacy ultimately is based on actions. It's based on commitments that are kept. So I think I came away today convinced that they are willing to begin to engage in a serious process to determine how and how quickly and through what mechanism can an end be brought to this war. Whether we can ultimately reach that outcome will obviously depend on every side in this conflict's willingness to agree to certain things. So I think it's important to have this meeting because we haven't really had much engagement with the Russians for almost 3 years. And it sets the table for future conversations. How that turns out will be up to the parties and their willingness not just to make commitments but to live by them. That'll be tested in the weeks to come. But I can tell you again, as I reiterate, President Trump has made it very clear during the campaign he thought this conflict needed to end. He's the only leader in the world that could have started a process that we saw here today, and this process is going to continue. And when you talk about an enduring and sustainable end of the conflict, it means one that's acceptable to everyone involved in it. And that obviously includes Ukraine, but also our partners in Europe, and of course the Russian side as well.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in there, but I just wanted to also take a moment, I think on behalf of all of us and the President, to thank our partners in Saudi Arabia, to thank our hosts for bringing this together, and particularly the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and his team. We are moving quickly, which means they moved very quickly to be such gracious hosts, and we certainly are all appreciative.
Absolutely.
As a last question, will the Saudis take on a more active mediation role as these talks move forward?
Well, that's a decision for the kingdom to make, but I can tell you that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is playing an indispensable role in making today possible. Not just hosting us, but bringing the parties together to have these conversations. I think it's something we're very grateful for, something we're very grateful for the partnership that we have with them on a host of issues, and this being one of them, where we thank them for doing it, and we hope that they will, I think they've offered, and I believe that they will continue to be helpful in any way they can.
Thanks.
Can I just I'll be extremely brief. So what is the next step now? The high-level team you mentioned is number 2 or number 3.
Yeah, so let me walk you through the next step is multi-track. The first next step is working through our respective teams at the diplomatic side, just to ensure that our diplomatic missions can function. There's been a series of reciprocal actions taken over the last 10 years that have really diminished our ability to operate in Moscow, as an example, and they would argue their ability to operate in Washington. We're going to need to have vibrant diplomatic missions that are able to function normally in order to be able to continue these conduits. The second is a high-level team, including those who are experts on these topics, the technical side, to begin to engage with their side on parameters of what an end consultation with Ukraine, with our partners in Europe and others. But ultimately, the Russian side will be indispensable to this effort, and so that process will begin. And then the third is, together with those other two, is beginning to engage in identifying the extraordinary opportunities that exist should this conflict come to a acceptable end, the credible opportunities that exist to partner with the Russians geopolitically on issues of common interest, and frankly economically on issues that hopefully will be good for the world and will also improve our relations in the long term between these two important countries. So all three of those efforts will be happening in conjunction with one another. Obviously, the diplomatic one is one we hope to move pretty quickly on, because this involves the treatment of our respective missions. The second one will be difficult, which is the question of Ukraine and the end of that conflict. But I think that's essential in order for the third piece to even be possible, which is our ability to work together on other geopolitical matters of common interest, and of course some pretty unique, potentially historic economic partnerships as well. The key that unlocks the door for those opportunities, however, is the end to this conflict.
But in terms of when does the high-level team meet? Has there been any date?
There's no date set, but as President Trump is, as you've seen over the last 4 weeks, not patient in terms of getting action. He drives hard, he wants to get things done. He's been wanting to do this, and he's moving very quickly to fulfill the promises he made to the American people when they elected him as our president.
Okay, and then in terms of number 1, in the restoration of the diplomatic missions, you'll remember that the first big tit of the tit for tats was after the Skripal poisoning, and the U.S. under one of your predecessors, Mr. Tillerson, expelled a lot of Russian diplomats, to which they responded. The consulate in St. Petersburg got closed down by the Russians. You guys closed down the consulate in Seattle, several others. Are those going to reopen?
Well, that's what we're going to be talking about. And but ultimately, again, I'm not going to negotiate or work on that in public. That's what these channels will be about. But ultimately, what the goal we need to have is we have to have some normalcy in our missions and in their ability to function.
And in the main embassies even.
And in the main embassies,
just the main
in
embassies, regardless of the consulates.
I mean, if our diplomatic channels are broken, it's going to be very difficult to consistently engage on a host of topics, including some unrelated irritants that could derail the broader talks on Ukraine. So there has to be some improvement in the way our missions are able to work and in the environment and space that they're given to operate in. So that's something we want to move on quickly, and it's important to set the table for the other two things that we want to do. But I think the key really in all of this is ultimately going to be whether an agreement can be reached with all parties involved on an acceptable resolution to the conflict in Ukraine. Because if that happens, not only will the world be a better place, but I think there will be some pretty unique opportunities to work with them on areas of bilateral geopolitical interest and some very unique economic opportunities. But we have to get the Ukraine situation resolved first in a way that's acceptable to everyone.
Okay, my last one. But does that mean if you get the staffs back to the normal operational level and staffs at the embassies, that you consider the Skripal case, the Crimea annexation, to be be closed. There are no longer issues, because I think, you mentioned that Keir Starmer is going to be in Washington next week. I can imagine that the Brits won't be particularly.
I'm not going to negotiate or talk through every element of the disruptions that exist or have existed in our diplomatic relations and the mechanics of it. Suffice it to say that President Trump has pledged and intends to keep his promise to do everything he can to bring an end to this conflict. We cannot do that unless we have at least some normalcy in the way our diplomatic missions operate in Moscow and in Washington, D.C. And so we need to work to improve that, and we're going to work with them to see what's possible within that context.
Does that include removing Lavrov from rescinding sanctions that have been imposed?
We're just not at that level of conversation yet, but so that's there'll be a number of topics that will have to be discussed along the way. We haven't even begun that process. Today was just an agreement to begin a process to talk about those things.
All right. Thank you.
That was an outstanding press conference with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, National Security Advisor Michael Waltz, and also Steve Witkoff, the United States Special Envoy to the Middle East. And Steve has been just outstanding, securing Mark Fogel just last week from Russia, traveling back home to Washington, D.C. with him, of course, a gentleman resident of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. If you saw that moving coverage from Mr. Matthew Alvarez here in studio just last week, wonderful to see 11 hostages released thus far in the first 4 weeks of the Trump administration, whether that be from Russia or Ukraine, Belarus, also down in Venezuela. Rick Grenell heading down there on a special mission as well just a couple of weeks ago. So some amazing strategic things happening. And you got to see really peel the onion, if you will, off of what happens in diplomacy. As Marco Rubio mentioned, our Secretary of State, you have to follow through with promises made, promises kept. Actions speak louder than words. Of course, they were in Saudi Arabia meeting with their counterparts and thanking the kingdom for their hospitality on such short notice. But this is what President Trump does so well. He brings world leaders to the table and works for a commonality of peace through strength. And most of that was focused on ending the Russia-Ukrainian conflict that has taken place beginning in the Biden administration, a conflict that could have been stopped by Biden and his crew, but because of the military-industrial complex, among others, continued and has left over 1.5 million people dead on the Russian and Ukrainian side, mostly soldiers. But President Trump pledging to bring that to an end and having spoken with both presidents of Russia and Ukraine. Thank you to Colonial Metals Group for sponsoring us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. You can scan that QR code now to shield your savings and get this free gold guide right here. This is something that we like to show on the network in addition to interviewing the great Paul Stone, the CEO of this wonderful organization. Gold has gone up 7,000% in its value since the end of the gold standard, and that was under Nixon, Richard Nixon's administration. So from 1971 until just last year, up over 7,000% in its value. This time-tested commodity has truly done just that, stood the test of time against radical governments, and regardless of who's in charge, it is your best bet and hedge against inflation. So feel free to take a look at this no obligation gold guide right now. Scan that QR code. Thank you to Colonial Metals Group, and do what Warren Buffett's doing, taking money out of the stock market, putting it in precious gold, silver, tangible metals. We'll go to a quick commercial break and stay with us at the top of the hour on the other side of the corner. I'm Robert McNeely, live with Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
Families across the nation have arrived at a heartbreaking crossroad to surrender their beloved animals at alarming rates due to inflation and soaring costs of living.
There are so many overcrowded shelters. So many dogs need a home, but it's all of us working together to solve this crisis.
This fight requires both doers and dollars. Join us at Big Dog Ranch Rescue. Please sign up today.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First news. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
And welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. I'm Robert McNeely. Just after the top of the hour, 10:02 a.m. Eastern in Washington, D.C. We're live from Auburn, Alabama. And of course, if you're joining us this morning from the West Coast, good morning. Lovely to have you join us for a Texas Senate hearing on establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve. That will start at the bottom of the hour there, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. That's 9:30 local time in the Lone Star State, in their capital of Austin, Texas. We have some footage, if you did not catch us in the first hour, of President Trump speaking on Bitcoin. He was at a conference on the campaign trail back in July. And actually 3 wonderful clips that really highlight his wish for the American people to become really involved in this Bitcoin process and to make it another currency that we can use to establish sovereignty and freedom right here stateside. We'll toss to those right now so you can take a view of what President Trump said back in July.
Upon taking office, I will immediately appoint a Bitcoin and Crypto Presidential Advisory Council. Would anybody like to be on that particular council? Please raise your hand. Their task will be to design transparent regulatory guidance for the benefit of the entire industry, and they will get it done in 100 days. We will have regulations, but from now on, the rules will be written by people who love your industry, not hate your industry, people that want to make it clear and simple, straightforward and fair, people that want to see your industry thrive, not dive. This afternoon, I'm laying out my plan to ensure that the United States will be the crypto capital of the planet and the Bitcoin superpower of the world, and we'll get it done. If crypto is going to define the future, I want to be mined, minted, and made in the USA. It's going to be. It's not going to be made anywhere else. And if Bitcoin is going to the moon, as we say, it's going to the moon, I want America to be the nation that leads the way. And that's what's going to happen. No, you're going to be very happy with me. You're going to be so happy. You're going to say he's the greatest guy. That's why I'm proud to be the first major party nominee in American history to accept donations in Bitcoin and crypto. It should be no surprise that these same totalitarians are hell-bent on crushing crypto and obliterating, and that's what they want to do, and that's what they are stated. They're there right now. You have the SEC, you know what they're doing, obliterating Bitcoin. The reason could not be more clear, because Bitcoin stands for freedom, sovereignty, and independence from government, coercion, and control. The Biden-Harris administration's repression of crypto and Bitcoin is wrong, and it's very bad for our country. It's really quite un-American. Upon taking office, I will immediately appoint a Bitcoin and Crypto Presidential Advisory Council. Would anybody like to be on that particular council? Please raise your hand. Their task will be to design transparent regulatory guidance for the benefit of the entire industry, and they will get it done in 100 days. We will have regulations, but from now on, the rules will be written by people who love your industry, not hate your industry, people that want to make it clear and simple, straightforward and fair, people that want to see your industry thrive, not dive.
This past July 25th to the 27th at that Nashville Bitcoin conference, in a room of people that were maybe unsure about which way they would go in the presidential election, really solidifying support in that realm as he wants America to be the capital of Bitcoin throughout the world, on top of the fact that building a presidential advisory council specifically on Bitcoin and using experts in the field. We've seen this also with the way he's assembled his cabinet and the people that President Trump has surrounded himself with. These are people who are subject matter experts on countless different entities and countless different professions that really don't need the resume builder. They're simply going in there. People like Steve Witkoff, as you saw with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and National Security Advisor Michael Waltz, in order to get the job done of pushing through that subject, peace through strength, and getting the hostages back. So we've seen that. Even President Trump over the weekend with a targeted strike on ISIS overseas. So we've seen this to be a regular pattern of President Trump, to look at any given topic and really make expert decisions based on the information fed to him by people who know what they're talking about. So quite a departure from the bureaucratic globalist mindset of the last administration. We know the cognitive issues that took place. We know the perhaps illegal things that were going on, and the investigations by Representative James Comer into really the Biden fortune and into Hunter and everything that took place with, his laptop and such. Remember that President Biden offered preemptive pardons, not only of his son, but of people like Dr. Fear, Anthony Fauci, and General Milley, of things that there were no charges, but the preemptive pardons for, well, what are they hiding? I mean, this is incredible that this would happen. This has never happened in presidential history, but I digress to the successes being the true retribution for the populist MAGA movement. As President Trump said on the campaign trail, our success is our victory. That's the retribution. It's bringing it back to a great nation, one that is responsible to the constitutional principles, law and order, natural law, and everything that has made this country really the beacon of hope for nearly 250 years. And Mr. Director, just checking on that video, do we have that ready for Ms. Noam on the border? Fantastic. So since we have a Texas theme today and the Texas Senate hearing establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve, as President Trump has spoken on this direct issue, that's going to start at the bottom of the hour. We're going to go to Secretary Kristi Noem, who's leading Homeland Security, and some of her comments on the border recently and some of the stuff that her agency has advanced. Such great work in such a short period of time, helping borders are Tom Homan out. We'll toss to that video now.
Noem, the United States Secretary of Homeland Security. Thank you, President Donald J. Trump, for securing our border and putting America first. Let me deliver a message from President Trump to the world. If you are considering entering America illegally, don't even think about it. Let me be clear. If you come to our country and you break our laws, we will hunt you down. Criminals are not welcome in the United States. For too long, weak leadership has left our borders wide open, flooding our communities with drugs, human trafficking, and violent criminals. Well, those days are over. Under President Trump, we are defending American families and restoring their safety. If you try to enter illegally, you will be caught, you will be removed, and you will never return. Follow the law, and you'll find opportunity. If you break it, you'll find consequences. Strong borders mean a stronger America. President Trump is making America safe again.
An extraordinary PSA from Secretary Kristi Noem of Homeland Security. She has been on the ground with ICE doing those raids in New York City specifically. We know Tom Homan. The borders are on the ground in Chicago, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., also New York City, among other major cities in the United States, rounding up the worst of the worst. People who not only broke the law by illegally crossing, as Kristi Noem said, if you cross illegally, you're breaking the law, you are going back. And many of these really horrible actors, those involved in child pornography and rapes and murders of American citizens, sent to Guantanamo Bay or their place of national origin. So we know even with Secretary of State Marco Rubio's trip to Central and South America, El Salvador, in their friendship, willing to take on some of the worst and house them in prisons to relieve the United States of some of this craziness. This all came to a head with the Laken-Riley bill being signed into law, the first one signed into law by President Trump, that was introduced by Congressman Mike Collins of the Peach State of Georgia back in March of last year. Senator Katie Britt of Alabama whipping up those votes in a bipartisan manner, and 12 Democrat United States senators, 48 Democrat United States congressmen joined onto a bipartisan bill. And we can even see Senator Fetterman in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania holding back tears as President Trump signed that legislation into law, surrounded by the bill co-sponsors, but also the members of Laken-Riley's family, who have to sit with an empty table or empty seat at the table whenever there's a holiday celebration, a birthday, a monumental occasion for their family. And we think about Rachel Morin, a beautiful 37-year-old mother of 5, who faced the same fate as Laken, simply going for a jog in the afternoon and raped and murdered by an illegal alien. You have people like Jocelyn Nungary, who had the whole future ahead of her, a 12-year-old girl who was brutally tortured. This should never happen in America. This is preventable crime, and President Trump and his administration addressing that. And he said in that presentation as well, before he signed that bill into law in the East Room, you know, Secretary Kristi Noem, she looks nice, she's very beautiful, a sweet person, and she is, I can attest to that, but tough as nails, and someone who is leading this agency in an extraordinary way after 4 years of Alejandro Mayorkas and just failed leadership from the Biden administration. So what a turnaround that's taken place, not only in Texas, but throughout our entire country with border security. And as of last week, if you follow the MAGA Minute by White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, the border crossings down 87%. And if you're not following that, I highly encourage that, because you can get really a week's worth of news all in the MAGA Minute updates put on social media by Caroline Leavitt, which are extraordinary, just to get those highlights so you can break through all of that noise coming from different media outlets, because sadly, some will twist it, some will turn it. We won't do that here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. We present opinion, analysis, also breaking hard journalism for you, the American people, so ultimately you can make up your mind. You might have seen over the weekend, I won't mention the network nor the show, but Secretary of State Marco Rubio setting the record straight with those in the corporate media who would seem to twist the record or take just a piece of a soundbite and make it out to be something that it's not. So it's interesting that some would perceive that and do that in order to push an agenda. We don't do that here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. We give you what we see on the ground, inside and outside of the Beltway, so you can make up your mind at home. And if you're just joining us now, it's about 15 minutes after the hour. A beautiful day in Washington, D.C. There's a live shot there of the White House. President Trump is down at the southern winter White House, Mar-a-Lago, And he'll be there through Wednesday until he heads up back to Joint Base Andrews and to CPAC in the D.C. area. We hope you can join us for that. We'll be doing our shows live from Media Row at this wonderful grassroots event that is one of my favorite all year long. It really brings in not only the heavy hitters in the movement, but the people who are the true MAGA populists, the people who made the phone calls, knocked on the doors, were precinct captains, Trump force captains who got the job done last year as they look to 2026. We'll be very excited to be with all y'all in National Harbor, Maryland, just south of our nation's capital. You'll be joined by me truly, yours truly, of course. Also, Christina Loren, Ashley Brassfield, Mr. Matthew Alvarez will be holding down the fort right here live in Auburn, Alabama for unbridled coverage Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of CPAC 2025 back in its home area. Remember, over COVID and some other times, we've had it in Florida, in Texas. Nice to be returning to Maryland, albeit it might be a little bit chilly, so make sure you bring your coat, but we'll be inside for all of the action. Hope to see you there. And hope you join us. If you can't, please tune in to Right Side Broadcasting for the nonstop action there. We're waiting for the Texas Senate hearing on establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve, which will start at 10:30 Eastern, roughly about 14 minutes from now. And this will be an interesting thing to highlight what President Trump wants to do. A strategic reserve for the United States, not only a reserve for our currency as he's already signed that executive order, but a presidential advisory council specifically on Bitcoin. And he mentioned this in Nashville, Tennessee back in July on the campaign trail to a room that was very receptive, very warm, but he didn't walk in. It wasn't a traditional MAGA rally of lots of supporters or even people who might be on the fence. It could have been people who were planning to vote the other way. But President Trump committed that he wanted to put an advisory council together of people who really know this subject very well. And I think we'll have that tape to run once again before this starts, Mr. Director, if that's ready. Just the clips of what took place in Nashville last year. Wonderful. Well, we'll go to that now, in case you missed it at the top of the hour, just to give you a setup for what's going to happen before the Texas Senate today.
Upon taking office, I will immediately appoint a Bitcoin and Crypto Presidential Advisory Council. Would anybody like to be on that particular council? Please raise your hand. Their task will be to design transparent regulatory guidance for the benefit of the entire industry, and they will get it done in 100 days. We will have regulations, but from now on, the rules will be written by people who love your industry, not hate your industry, people that want to make it clear and simple, straightforward and fair, people that want to see your industry thrive, not dive. This afternoon, I'm laying out my plan to ensure that the United States will be the crypto capital of the planet and the Bitcoin superpower of the world, and we'll get it done. If crypto is going to define the future, I want to be mined, minted, and made in the USA. It's going to be. It's not going to be made anywhere else. And if Bitcoin is going to the moon, as we say, it's going to the moon, I want America to be the nation that leads the way. And that's what's going to happen. No, you're going to be very happy with me. You're going to be so happy. You're going to say he's the greatest guy. That's why I'm proud to be the first major party nominee in American history to accept donations in Bitcoin and crypto. It should be no surprise that these same totalitarians are hell-bent on crushing crypto and obliterating, and that's what they want to do, and that's what they are stated. They're there right now. You have the SEC, you know what they're doing, obliterating Bitcoin. The reason could not be more clear, because Bitcoin stands for freedom, sovereignty, and independence from government, coercion, and control. The Biden-Harris administration's repression of crypto and Bitcoin is wrong, and it's very bad for our country. It's really quite un-American.
So what a departure from the Biden administration, someone who's actually embracing the crypto and the Bitcoin, but also the first major candidate to take donations in those new technologies. So an exciting thing that you saw from President Trump just last year, and I think you won that whole room over in that process. I can remember covering that with Mr. Matthew Alvarez here in studio. What an exciting time for the 21st century and the unbridled success that's happening already in 4 short weeks. I'd like to thank our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, mypillow.com/RSBN. Our friend, Mr. Mike Lindell, with the mega sale, My Cross going for 30% off. That's the exact replica of his. And for the ladies, you can actually flip it over and there's a white side in case you like to just match that with your beautiful outfits as well. Of course, the traditional, very masculine black cross for those who are big fans of Mr. Mike Lindell. And the cross he wears talks about how his salvation, how his faith has been put into not only his company, but in everything that he does, including defending the First Amendment and election integrity. How about those My Towels? 6-pack for $29.98. Flannel sheets for $44.98. Go to mypillow.com using promo code RSBN, 800-836-7566. Again, that's mypillow.com/RSBN for up to 80% off of everything. And this is over 2,000 items at the store. I enjoy some myself. Some of my favorites being the traditional My Pillow, of course, but also those My Towels and the My Slippers, the My Coffee in the morning to get your day started. And what about those Giza Dream Sheets? I mean, you can't go wrong with those. But the mega sale right now, My Cross, My Towels, Flannel Sheets, all for incredible low prices. Thank you to Mr. Mike Lindell, everything he does for the network and for mypillow.com/RSBN. You know, there's an open governor seat in Minnesota, and I talk about it till I'm blue in the face, but would love to see Mike Lindell put his name forward for that position, as we're hearing reports now that Governor Walz might be considering a run for the U.S. Senate. Texas Senate hearing on establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve will start in just a few minutes. We'll take you live there. Also an update on what took place with the crash landing yesterday. That was from Minneapolis-St. Paul in Minnesota to the Toronto Pearson International Airport in Canada. 80 people on board, 76 passengers, 4 crew, all survived. There's a very scary video of that crash landing. It was like a normal landing like anyone else would experience. There was a very icy, snowy runway. It looked like the wheel buckled and gave out, and then the plane literally did a barrel roll. This is roughly 3 or 4 o'clock Eastern yesterday, late afternoon, early evening. And I've never seen anything like that. And of course, John Nelson, the passenger, had that live coverage as we were breaking live to you here at Right Side Broadcasting Network yesterday. To see everyone walk away is amazing. There were 18 injuries. So 76 passengers, 4 crew, everyone survived. Thank God for that. A very scary moment yesterday to the north of our border. We know that there's been very cold temperatures, very high winds, an Arctic blast coming in through the midsection of our country, and that jet stream going up into Canada, just north of our border here. So we pray for everyone involved, the inconvenience that it was, but also thanking God that He helped save those lives in that process. Something very scary. So breaking 911, among other ventures, showing that actual footage. I shared that to my personal Instagram as well, if you want to see what took place. And apparently, according to one of the passengers, they were hanging upside down like bats. So another good reason you keep that seatbelt on when you're flying, because you never know when a situation like that, albeit rare, could happen. So thank God for that. 5 minutes before the Texas Senate hearing is scheduled to start. This is establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And now we'll see what's discussed here, whether that's mirroring what President Trump had pledged back in July to the Bitcoin conference in Nashville, Tennessee, regarding starting this reserve, or if this is something the Lone Star State is looking to do to start and be the first amongst 50 states in the union. So it'll be interesting to see them potentially take the lead on this and move towards establishing something for financial security. But we know the last administration wanted to heavily regulate Bitcoin and all cryptocurrencies, and even some Democrat legislators wanting to start some kind of government Bitcoin currency of their own, almost to mirror the dollar, but to do it with a government regulation. So this is all interesting new technology taking place that will affect you, the American people. And that's why it's important to have as much assets and properties, 401ks, IRAs, gold, silver, precious metals, ready to go in your reserves, just so you can reach retirement yourself, or pay for those monumental times in life, like sending kids to college. We're in a college town right here in Auburn, Alabama as well. And hey, by the way, they're #1 in the nation in basketball. So hope you're tuning in for all of that great action and coverage as well. Thank you to our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live, Tax Network USA. April 15th is right around the corner. Can you believe how fast 2025 is already moving? So the Patriot experts at Tax Network USA can settle your back taxes today and make sure that you're protected from the IRS overreach. We know that 80,000 plus new agents were brought on board under the Biden administration. And go to tnusa.com/RSBN to learn how to fend yourself and protect yourself against that overreach. Call the Patriot professionals today at Tax Network USA, 800-357-1415. That is 800-357-1415. tnusa.com/RSBN. Protect yourself from the IRS and settle your back taxes now. Visit tnusa.com/RSBN. Thank you for your support of Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. And there's a live shot there of the White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, the People's House in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. We'll be there for CPAC just south of the federal city in National Harbor, Maryland, joined by Christina Loren, Ashley Brassfield. Of course, Mr. Matthew Alvarez will be holding down the fort here in Auburn as we bring you the Grassroots Conference of the Year. It will not be one to be missed. Thursday through Saturday, live coverage. We're flying out tomorrow. Excited to be once again in our nation's capital for what is going on inside and outside of the Beltway, this grassroots populist movement that is making America great again, CPAC 2025. We hope you tune in. We hope you're actually able to attend. If you are, come by our booth on Media Row and say hello. It's always wonderful to speak to the MAGA patriots in this country who have been so much a part of this movement. If you didn't knock those doors, make those phone calls, and hit the pavement with Trump Force 47 or within your party precincts, my goodness, this could be a much different nation right now, a post-constitutional nation perhaps, but we know with President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance, the Constitution, law and order restored, and the executive authorities being done in order to save this country. So an exciting time, a new dawn, a new day for America as we are awaiting the Texas Senate hearing on establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve, which will start in a couple of minutes here. Of course, it's 10:30 Eastern on the East Coast and Central Time, 9:30 for the Lone Star State, the capital of Austin, Texas. If you have not been, I always say it's my favorite liberal city. It's delicious barbecue, it's great country music, and just such a wonderful history there of the entertainment industry in the Lone Star State. And Texas is so unique. It's like a whole other country if you haven't been there. Of course, at one point in time, for about a decade, it was its own country before being annexed by the United States. But Houston really being the capital of oil and gas, energy, Austin, entertainment, and Dallas more of the business sector of Texas. So unique compared to other American cities where one industry or two will dominate a city center versus, say a plethora of them. But that's what they're known for. And as you know, being on the network here with Matthew Alvarez, we talk a lot of sports and even some dining, and I think it's the best barbecue in the country. And fortunately, we're able to have some Texas-themed barbecue right here in Alabama. So we are excited to see all of this Bitcoin discussion, what the strategic reserve will lead to, whether this is a state mandate to push for a federal reserve like President Trump has mentioned back at that Bitcoin conference. You saw that footage from July of last year on the campaign trail, or whether this is just something to start in Texas to inspire perhaps the rest of the country and all 50 states to follow suit. We know Texas definitely is independent and one to go out on its own. We know it's the Lone Star State. And I have a lot of friends in Texas and some family members who actually did their higher education down in the Lone Star State. And we know that if you ever talk to someone from Texas, they'll always say, I'm from Texas. It's a lot of pride down there in the Lone Star State, and we love that about our friends there. It's a wonderful place to live and really something that's growing as well. So a hot commodity, many Americans moving down there to pursue life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, something enshrined in our founding documents. If you saw yesterday as well on Right Side Broadcasting Network Live, that plane crash that was going from Minneapolis, St. Paul to Toronto Pearson International Airport, everyone is safe, thank God. 80 were aboard, 76 passengers, 4 crew, 18 injuries sustained. We'll keep an eye on that. Much footage coming out from there of a scary situation of where the plane landed and then did a barrel roll. So really remarkable footage, but thank God everyone is safe. Stay with us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. We're taking a quick commercial break. I'm Robert McNeely. We'll be back on the other side with the Texas Senate hearing on the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
Families across the nation have arrived at a heartbreaking crossroad to surrender their beloved animals at alarming rates due to inflation and soaring costs of living.
There are so many overcrowded shelters. So many dogs need a home, but it's all of us working together to solve this crisis.
This fight requires both doers and dollars. Join us at Big Dog Ranch Rescue. Please sign up today.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. I'm Robert McNeely as we await the Texas Senate hearing on establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve now at any moment. So this will be interesting to see. 10:30 on the East Coast, 9:30 Central. And we are preparing to toss to that live from Austin, Texas, a Senate hearing on establishing that Bitcoin reserve. We'll go live to the Lone Star State.
Which prevents renters from obtaining collision waivers for rentals longer than 30 days. Senate Bill 72 would provide financial security to consumers by providing them the option to purchase damage waivers when renting a vehicle for more than 30 days. Generally then, Senate Bill 72 would align the business code to extend the length of a rental agreement from 30 to 180 days under the business code to allow persons to obtain a damage waiver for the rental during that period and ensure persons receive a pro rata refund for the damage waiver if they return the vehicle earlier. That's all it does, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dean. This was a refile of a bill yesterday, I think, or last session. I think it died on 10th over in the
And it was
House.
recommended unanimously by this committee.
Right. Members, any questions of the author? Hearing none, the chair opens up public testimony on Senate Bill 72 and calls Don Schuent with Enterprise Mobility. Bill's in pretty good shape. Please state your name and begin your testimony. You have 2 minutes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Schwertner and Senators. My name is Don Schwent. I'm the Controller for Enterprise Mobility. We do business as Enterprise, Alamo, and National Car Rental, and also we operate the Enterprise Truck Rental Division. I'm here in support of Senate Bill 72. Thank you, Dean Zaffarini, for filing this bill. We support Senate Bill 72 because consumers and businesses that rent from us have asked for collision damage waivers, also known as CDWs, for longer than 30 days. And this bill allows them that option. And compared to historical trends, 30-plus day rentals are happening more frequently. It is a mystery to our team why the tax code and the business and commerce code definitions do not line up. Both were written many years ago. We certainly agree with Dean Zaffarini. This is a simple definition change, and although it's simple, for our customers that desire the protections of a collision damage waiver for longer than 30 days, it is very impactful. To address the demand of the traveling public in Texas, we support this bill, and thank you for considering it. At this time, I could answer any questions.
Members, any questions? Hearing none, thank you. Anyone else wish to testify on Senate Bill 72? Hearing none, public testimony is closed. We're going to leave this bill pending. I'm being advised that the live stream is now up, so I'm going to turn the gavel over to Vice Chair King and ask him to recognize me on Senate Bill 21.
Okay, good morning. The chair lays out Senate Bill 21 and recognizes the author, Senator Schwertner, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Vice Chair King. Members, this bill, Senate Bill 21, creates the Texas Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, sending a clear message regarding the decades-long spendthrift stewardship of our country by the federal government. Individuals and investment firms have reacted to excessive spending at the sovereign level by seeking alternatives to fiat currency. These alternatives have historically included gold and land, but now include, to many, cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin, referenced as digital gold by the United States Treasury, has become a recognized asset in the financial markets. Besides individuals holding Bitcoin directly or through custodianship on exchanges, multiple publicly listed SEC-regulated Bitcoin ETFs are now traded on U.S. stock exchanges. Bitcoin offers unique advantages in the digital era due to its limited supply and decentralized nature, in contrast to the federal government, which has an unlimited printing press and centralized control of the currency. Senate Bill 21 creates the Texas Strategic Bitcoin Reserve as a special fund managed by the Comptroller of Public Accounts. The bill allows Texas to diversify our investment approach, participate competitively in the digital financial economy, and leverage the benefits of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Under Senate Bill 21, the Comptroller is authorized to acquire, exchange, sell, manage, and retain investments of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies with a market capitalization of at least $500 billion. The bill also allows for public participation through donations of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. All assets in the reserve will be managed under the same prudent investor standard currently followed today, ensuring responsible financial stewardship. Legislative approval is required before the Comptroller may transfer money from the reserve. The Comptroller may contract with qualified providers to assist in the administration and management of the reserve, including a custodian to assist in the safeguarding of assets. The bill also creates a strategic Bitcoin reserve advisory committee to provide cryptocurrency investment expertise and recommendations to the comptroller. And lastly, the Senate bill requires a biennial report be submitted to the legislature and published online for public access. Thank you. We have the comptroller and his team here today. Thank you, Comptroller Hager, as well as a representative for invited testimony from the Texas Blockchain Council, President Lee Bratcher. Before they are called up, I would like to take any questions, but I'd like to first point you to the two pieces of paper I put in front of you. One of them is a map of the United States showing the 32 states that have filed similar legislation. In addition, at the national level, there has been a great interest in this bill at the presidential level, with the president announcing a presidential working group on digital asset markets to study the strategic national digital asset stockpile. And then, of course, as y'all are probably aware, the Treasury Secretary and Commerce Secretary are also big proponents of digital assets and cryptocurrency. So it's a quickly evolving and very obviously interesting and pertinent issue, in particular because of, again, the spendthrift ways, profligate ways of our national government under both Republicans and Democrats, to be quite frank. The other piece of paper I would like to draw your attention to, and I'll read it as for those of you who do not have it in front of you, but it talks about our spending at the national level, our deficits, and our interest costs. In fiscal year 2024, the federal government spent $6.9 trillion, accounting to 24% of the nation's gross domestic product, according to the June 2024 estimate of the Congressional Budget Office. In 2024, the federal government collected $4.92 trillion in revenue, a shortfall of approximately $2 trillion. This is made up of money from a variety of sources, including taxes, custom duties, and national park emission fees. Growing debt, in addition to the rise in interest rates over the past couple of years, has significantly increased the cost of federal borrowing. In 2024, interest costs on the national debt totaled $881 billion, interest costs, surpassing most other components of the federal budget. This is why people are reaching for alternatives to fiat currency, because all fiat currency eventually goes to its natural worth, which is the paper it's printed on. And we can buy land, we can buy gold. I think the state of Texas should have the option of evaluating the best performing asset of the last 10 years with a 60% CAGR, cumulative annualized growth rate of 60% over the last 10 years. That's an astounding return. All financial assets have appreciation and also obviously diminished and loss of value. But that said, I think it's a worthwhile discussion. It's a message, a very clear message to our national government, and I recognize and appreciate the work they're doing with the DOGE committee. But in the end, we are spending in entitlements, dedicated spending, required spending, amounts that our children and our children's children will be unable to pay. And as Texas, we need to position Texas in the best course with all possibilities regarding solvency long term to meet the needs at the state level that we have been entrusted and are obligated to meet. So with that, that's the background of the bill, the reasons why I filed it, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. We can certainly ask the invited testimony to come up. If we'd like to do that first, I'm open to take any arrows.
Members, any questions, or do you want to go ahead and call up Comptroller? Senator Menendez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Schwartner, I have to agree with you. I mean, I think it's long overdue that we take the tremendous amount of funds that are sitting in this Economic Stabilization Fund, otherwise known as a rainy day fund, and find a way to put that money to work on behalf of the taxpayers. My concerns are just the safety and the security of the investments. And I was noticing that this, for some reason, this advisory committee, you didn't put it inside Chapter 2110, which is the state advisory committees, which are required to make a report to the Legislative Budget Board, and I was just curious as to why.
That's the way it was advised to be written by Ledge Counsel. There is a report required. It is under the direction and supervision of the comptroller. This is supposed to be as transparent as possible. There is a conflating there, Senator. This does not take money from the ESF in any manner. The ESF also, what we did, I think 4 years ago, allows investments outside of just fixed dollar investments.
Right.
And so the comptroller can speak more eloquently about it, but there has been a significant appreciation in the money of the ESF beyond just money put in by severance taxes, but actually by money that has grown, money on our money inside the ESF.
Correct.
This is a brand new initiative, a reserve that if the legislature so sees fit, we can appropriate directly money through the budgeting process in a transparent manner into the reserve. In addition, we can take donations by individuals, companies that want to participate in the reserve in the sense of individuals believing that it's the future of currencies, or companies that are affiliated in some way with whether they're miners or exchanges that believe also in their industry and also want to put their money where their mouth is regarding donating to the reserve and helping kickstart it. To be quite frank, this Bitcoin could go to zero, or it could go to 1 million or 2 million or 5 million. I don't know. I don't think anyone knows. I do know that if we continue to spend on a federal level like we are, the dollar will continue to lose purchasing power, and people will look to alternatives, whether that's gold, whether or not that's land, whether or not it's income-producing assets, or whether it's cryptocurrencies, or a mix of those. We need to have all options open. Right now, the comptroller, for instance, in the ESF, can purchase directly securities. There are funds such as the TRS and ERS funds that can purchase land or purchase directly companies. So there's a wide variety of assets that are currently allowed in some of our funds. This would be the first direct cryptocurrency reserve that they would be allowed to purchase cryptocurrencies that have at a total marketable market cap of over $500 billion. The only one currently in that range is Bitcoin, which I think has $1.7 trillion market cap. And I don't know what gold's is. Someone probably knows that out there. I think it's 3 or 4 trillion of the total market cap of gold, but someone's going to have to correct me on that. That testifies. So it's a thought. It's a alternative. It's also a specific signal to our federal government that is being echoed by many other states, that federal government, you can't continue to spend like this and expect our country to continue to be as prosperous as it has in the past.
Yeah, no, definitely have to agree with that. I think we have quite a bit of money in the ESF fund. I think I don't know what limitation. I know we had a limitation on how much can be invested in the ESF. I don't recall what that amount is. We'll ask the comptroller, but I think possibly allowing him to diversify that portfolio a little bit and maybe increase. We'll listen to see, but I'm just concerned about taking GR dollars and investing them. But I like the donation part and the other parts that you have in the reserve. So look forward to hearing the testimony. Thank you, Chairman.
I will mention, I believe the portion of the ESF that can be invested in any SEC-listed security, and he's going to correct me on this, but that could include the various ETFs that are Bitcoin ETFs, which have extremely high volume. IBIT and FBTC are two of the larger ones, Fidelity's and the iShares one. But and that's also the same with ERS and TRS. They, however, have chosen not to invest up to this time in those type of securities. They've been listed maybe a year and a half or 2 years, and they have already assumed massive volume on the exchanges.
Senator Johnson.
Yes, thank you. Chairman Schwertner, it's actually my very first campaign when I was a little baby aspiring senator. one of the things I talked about was the limitations on the comptroller's ability to invest money in the Economic Stabilization Fund. And I think it was that session that actually we did loosen up those rules. I'm aware, and I do look forward to some edification on the subject as to what the limitations are. But I do have some concerns with the move. I also understand that the signal factor here, I assume that it's a small amount, $21 million, because you're trying to establish a platform for future decisions, not make a big financial commitment at this point. Is that right?
Well, the bill does not actually have a spending amount. That would be done in a rider in the budgetary process.
I thought I saw somewhere $21 million. I might have dreamed it. Did I?
Maybe that's your staffer's notes.
It could well be. Why are we establishing?
It is something I am pursuing, is an active allocation appropriation. But again, that's a different committee, the Finance Committee and Appropriations Committee, that then are voted on by the entirety of as to whether or not a direct appropriation is appropriate by the legislature at this time into a newly formed fund. I think it should. We're going to
what scale?
If we're going to actually make the reserve, we should go ahead and fund it with something to show that we have an interest in participating in the digital currency world.
What kind of scale are we talking about? $1 billion, $1 million?
21 million is the
21 million.
Yeah.
Okay, so somewhere that came from somewhere.
And then again, if you that sounds like a lot, and it is obviously a lot.
No, it sounds like a little.
On a relative basis to our $300+ billion budget, all funds in, it's not a pronounced amount.
I agree. It sounds symbolic, like not an actual investment. But as you just stated, we presently could, as a state, invest in cryptocurrency within whatever constraints there are on the comptroller's ability.
You can't do it in the Treasury, of course, as say in fixed dollar numbers. But the ERS, TRS, and the comptroller, I believe, will verify the portion of the ESF that can be invested in certain types of securities. And I believe any SEC regulated security is open, but he'll have to clarify the percentages and whether or not what I just said is absolutely correct.
Okay, and forgive my ignorance, page 3, line 3 establishes the reserve outside of the state treasury. Structurally, why do we put it outside the state treasury?
I think all those funds that are managed by the comptroller are outside the state treasury. The treasury is basically the checking book of the state of Texas.
And does that mean that it would not be subject to...
The ESF, for instance, is outside the state treasury, I believe.
And would it be vulnerable...
We should probably bring him up to answer this question.
Would it be vulnerable, like so many other of our funds, to being held hostage to budget certification purposes?
I don't know that answer.
All right, well, we'll check that one out too. Preview to witnesses coming up. The thing that actually gives me the most concern about this is a phrase that we see in almost all of our funds, which is that people can just, out of the goodness of their own hearts, deposit money into the account. Who would possibly want to do that other than somebody? Step back for a second. The beauty of cryptocurrency is that it's not run by any government. It's just free-flowing capital. And once the state of Texas puts its imprimatur on there, and somebody who might be worth $300 billion decides to throw $10 billion into the state's crypto fund, and they happen to own a crypto operation, they're like creating the market for themselves. Doesn't sound all that charitable. They might be using us, the state of Texas, to manipulate their market. How do we guard against that kind of bad behavior? I would say if we're going to do this, and I recognize cryptocurrency is here and it may be a prudent state investment, but I do not want the state to be a tool for an investor. I would close the thing off. No private investment, only legislatively appropriated funds.
Yeah, I think your point is well taken. I've thought of that obviously myself. Lee has some comments about basically front running by goosing the fund, elevating the asset price, and then selling outright.
Yeah.
But there are ways to manage that potential, and there are rules that would be placed regarding how donations and from whom donations are accepted. So I think that could be handled from a structural standpoint when devising the parameters of the fund.
I appreciate it, and of course you have thought about it, and I appreciate the concern there. I'm so concerned about it. I would still advocate for having nothing, because I can't imagine any altruistic move of dumping money into this fund. If you're that big of an altruist, we got lots of homeless shelters and other things you could put your money into than a state crypto fund.
I don't call it altruistic. I think it's certainly individuals, companies that have a direct involvement because they are miners, like Mara, for instance, or Riot, or there's a whole host of publicly traded miners, or Coinbase, one of the big exchanges. They might see, well, this is a sovereign entity, a state, wanting to participate and recognize in a recognition, really, as the president did at his desk when he announced the formation of the various entities that he has. A recognition of the transformation of currency into the realm of cryptocurrency, and that recognition being by sovereign entities now, not just by individuals participating in the crypto and financial asset markets.
I appreciate the whole thing, and I will keep an open mind, and we'll talk, all of us, more in the process. But I do have a great concern with billionaire tech bros owning branches of government. I don't want it happening.
I share your concern. I don't think this bill does it.
And some of them are my friends. I just don't want them owning the government.
Okay.
Okay. Members, anyone else? Okay. Chair opens up for public testimony on Senate Bill 21. Chair calls Comptroller Hager and Lee Bratcher. And Comptroller, we'll allow you ask you to go first.
Sounds good.
Welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, good to see everybody. I appreciate Senator Schwartner quickly said, any arrows come my way. If not, we'll call the controller. I appreciate that. That was duly noted what you said. So, good morning, Chairman Schwartner, members. For the record, I'm Glenn Hager, Texas Controller of Public Accounts. I'm happy to be here today to discuss Senate Bill 21, which creates the Texas Strategic Bitcoin Reserve at the Texas Treasury and Safekeeping Trust Company, where I serve as the sole shareholder and director in my capacity as controller. The trust company currently invests and manages more than $105 billion in state assets across multiple portfolios with different return and liquidity objectives. Investments include approximately $9 billion in long-term endowment assets that return investment gains of $745 million in 2024. It also includes investment portfolios with immediate liquidity profiles like the Economic Stabilization Fund and the SWIFT. Combined, these funds had balances of $25 billion at the end of 2024 and generated more than $1.1 billion in investment gains that year. The trust company also manages the Texas Treasury Pool account, which averages $79 billion, generated nearly $3.9 billion in investment returns in 2024. Investments include cash equivalent funds such as the Treasury Pool and separately managed portfolios including multiple long-term endowments. These portfolios are managed in accordance with the Prudent investment standard, which is a legal standard that requires trustees, the trust company in this case, to act with the highest standard of care when managing those investments. This helps ensure that investments for each of these portfolios are appropriate given the unique purpose and applicable distribution requirements. These conservative management practices for the investment of taxpayer dollars have furthered the trust company's efforts to grow the state's assets over time. However, technology is evolving. The investment landscape is shifting. As a prudent investor, we are always paying attention to these developments. There is interest in both the public and the private sector in exploring investments outside their traditional opportunities in ways that may help protect and preserve the state's assets over the long term. Cryptocurrency, Bitcoin most notably, has emerged as an option for institutional investors to consider as well as part of a diversified portfolio, particularly since the SEC approved spot Bitcoin exchange-traded funds, ETFs, as we all know, in January of 2024. Recently, the President and approximately 20 other states have declared their interest in establishing digital asset reserves across the nation. This shift represents significant movement in how governments are approaching cryptocurrency, with many viewing Bitcoin as potentially a hedge against inflation and a way to better diversify their portfolio holdings. Texas obviously prides ourselves on being visionary. We have led the way in technologies like fracking in the oil and gas sector, and through the portfolios that we manage, we are early investors in companies that are transforming the defense industry, aerospace and space exploration, artificial intelligence, and blockchain technology. These companies are redefining national security with AI-powered system, autonomous platforms, or strengthening security through development of new technologies, leading space exploration through breakthroughs in aerospace companies, or pioneering large language models. In the blockchain and digital innovation sector, we are investing around decentralized finance, AI-driven blockchain applications, and digital identity security. Our office is also responsible for the nation's first and only state-managed bullion depository. Looking forward on the horizon, Texas can be expected to play a role in such bold technological initiatives as AI, space exploration, quantum computing. Pioneering a strategic Bitcoin reserve is a natural step for Texas where innovation ideas are nurtured and pursued. My office has worked with the Senator, your office, as well as to ensure that the reserve can be administered in a manner consistent with our prudent investment philosophy while diversifying the state's investment portfolio. And we believe this bill takes a measured approach to managing a potentially volatile asset, a critical requirement when investing taxpayer dollars. This concludes my presentation, and as always, happy to answer questions that you may have.
Members, any questions?
I do.
Yes, Dean?
Thank you. Comptroller?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman. Comptroller, what level of funding would you recommend, or would you recommend at least a minimum?
Yeah, good question. So let me just real quick to answer, as was talking about earlier, we have the current ability to invest. We have started looking at, is this a potential part of our portfolio of the different endowments that we may have and different funds that we manage. And so we're moving in that direction. Part of those were questions on regulatory certainty, and so therefore, as responsible for taxpayer dollars, my point is we're kind of leaning in those directions. I think it's important to take kind of that first manageable step, not, let's invest the entire ESF, as an extreme example, or all of the endowments, because you have to look at it as holistically. And so therefore, the point being is I don't have an exact dollar amount to give you today, but I do think if you take this step, it's important to take a step and let's manage and lean into this over time. So I don't have an exact dollar amount.
Or a minimum even?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Are there any safeguards you would recommend for this legislation?
So one is just giving us the flexibility. There has been some discussions in some areas that we shall hold this for an exact amount of term or dollars. Well, personally, I think that flexibility allow us to do our job. And essentially, if that's holding it, we can upscale and downscale over time. So I just think having the flexibility is imperative. It's more than anything else.
The bill also would establish an advisory committee. What makeup of that committee would you foresee or would you recommend?
Yeah, so one, kind of in some other versions that were out there, whether you as legislators would be on the advisor, and there are things in the Constitution called separation of powers. And so therefore, I didn't think anyone wanted to give up their duties and responsibilities as legislators. So therefore, the point is we have advisory committees. Obviously, if leadership wants to appoint advisory, but I always suggest that we have people who have skill sets like I do on my investment advisory board. We have an advisory board. I appoint that advisory board. But say, for example, there are people who are in it that come with different skill sets in investments, whether that's in universities, whether that's in families, whether that is in accounting, that side of it, to make sure everything is tended to on the accounting side. So we have kind of a wider group of people that come with different lenses and can help me and my team see things from different angles. So expertise is more than anything else.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Campbell.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
What, for those of us who want more clarity, what do donations look like? How are those invested?
Yeah, so right
investment.
Right now, we don't have the ability to bring in donations, to receive donations and to invest those. That's a component of this legislation. Originally, I think it was several years ago, if I recall correctly, we were asked on whether we would just receive donations in and of itself. Personally, I had a hedge against just a simple donation system because I didn't want it to be as though Glenn Hager, the controller of the state of Texas, is moving the market. I think the state should play a role in this. Obviously, when it comes to donations, there are some other, I'm not saying we shouldn't have them. It's just I have a certain few things that we have to look at. And so therefore we can invest that whatever mechanism you want us to, then we will invest those just like we do the overall pool.
So your office wouldn't be responsible for any kind of a return on their investment? I'm thinking a donation.
I think really it would be if it is a donation to the state, then therefore that is coming to Texas. That is for us to manage after that. That is not something that I'm going to give you a rate of return, such as, say, for example, with 529 education accounts that we manage today. Obviously, we are managing those for people for the education of their children in the future. So this would be different, if I understand.
So, and that's what I wanted to clarify.
And so therefore, we have that flexibility.
If it's a donation, no one ever expects to get anything back.
Correct.
And that's what I wanted to make sure I understood well.
And I think it's essentially because there are a significant number of people that believe that, as Chairman laid out, that this is a hedge, this is a next step, and so therefore they're committed enough that they would be willing to donate.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
I don't want to take away from Chairman's words.
Chairman Swartner.
Yeah, just to further clarify and shed some light on donations, page 5, line 6 through 12. It does allow the comptroller to require information as well as have and may return or reject any donation. So there are parameters that would be set by the comptroller's office when it comes to any donation. I'm not dead set on donations. I think it's reasonable because I think people are very interested, as you can see, as I've seen on social media, as obviously the president has seen when he established this as his presidential committee regarding a strategic national cryptocurrency reserve. Donations are affirmation by individuals, by companies that they believe in the validity of digital assets, and they're one way they can participate to the extent allowed and devised by the comptroller's office when making rules.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, just for clarification for the members, something that my team is working with the chairman on this is that to make a point, why would we have the ability to reject certain ones is because, say, for example, what if that individual, that company, not that their intent was, but they may have tax issues before us. And so therefore, maybe there's an ongoing audit, maybe there's an ongoing, and so therefore, you want to make sure that for everybody's purpose, those that are donating, the state that is receiving, that it all looks as though there's not a conflict whatsoever. So that's why we asked for that ability.
Thank you, sir.
Senator Johnson.
Senator Zaffirini asked you for a recommendation or what might be in mind about an appropriate investment. And, we understand you can't give us an exact amount. Yeah. Can you give us an inexact amount or an order of magnitude?
Well, I guess I wouldn't think the entire state treasury.
Okay, less than that.
That's one number.
This is fiscal conservatism.
Yes, sir.
101.
Yes, sir. Not zero. So we've narrowed that down the extremities.
Yep.
So now we can work somewhere in between, Senator. I honestly, I haven't put thought to a number. I just haven't. I'm happy to do that. I'm happy with my team to work on that. It's just not something that I came prepared to
I
give
can
an answer
appreciate
for.
that.
I mean, that's just the bluntness. I haven't come prepared to give a number.
Do we need this bill, this strategic crypto reserve, in order for you to run a diversified portfolio that includes cryptocurrency?
Yeah, I can do that already. However, with that being said, having some parameters and expectations by you as the policymakers is always good. One of the things as you're moving through on various issues, we like goalpost in the executive branch. We like some parameters upon which your expectations as the policymakers. And so therefore, having legislation to give us some of those goalposts and for you to debate that policy, in my opinion, is a good thing for us, right? And so we have looked at, do we accept cryptocurrency in a different form, but in my agency, as collections in revenue? But then the cost mechanism, standing that up and being able to receive it, didn't weigh out as the cost. So we haven't, but we have entertained that. We have looked at crypto in our current portfolio, but as I said, we wanted to have some of the regulatory certainty, some of those issues off the plate, while we may not take advantage of the rise, but we are a different investor. We're a different investor because it's taxpayer dollars, and so we may not be looking for the most maximum gain of alpha that we can get out there and the highest return. That's not our role. And so therefore, my point is, we kind of typically take one step at a time and lean into, we may miss the front end, but we're more defensive on the back end.
Understood. And your role in maintaining a diversified portfolio is different than perhaps this legislature is looking for in Mr. Chairman Schwartner's creating strategic reserve. It is a hedge. It could have value apart from what you could reasonably achieve within the comptroller's office.
So that's hopefully that helps, Senator.
As I can appreciate that. We've seen before that the legislature has appropriated a certain amount of funds for a particular purpose, and in the interim, the amount of funds dedicated to that purpose go up dramatically, sometimes in the billions recently. Is there any risk, and Mr. Chairman, I think your drafting is pretty careful. As I read your bill, I don't see how we could run into that problem, but I do think it's important to raise it. Could somehow, through budget execution, the executive branch increase multiply what the legislature appropriates to the strategic reserve?
I'm not prepared to answer that, to be very specific. I would like to try to answer it first. I would think that would be highly unlikely. Now, whether that could, in theory, occur, I'm not prepared to answer that question. I'm happy to try to find out. But the point is, I would have a hard time.
Would you think that was inappropriate on the executive branch to add to an amount that's appropriated
to have an agreement for budgeting execution, which is moving dollars to manage the states as we're continuing to go through with uncertainty or not while you're not here? I mean, that's between the governor, lieutenant governor, the speaker. All of these things have to occur. So there's several checks in place is the point. And so therefore, and there's the LBB, which members sit on. And so therefore, there's all these steps in place. I just don't see that practically occurring, Senator. I really don't.
It's happened before, but I agree it would be hard to justify for purposes of this bill. So finally.
That's why it doesn't happen very often, right?
Yeah, you talked about some concerns you would have with the donation, and the statute's been carefully drafted to give the comptroller's office
the senators worked with us
some
well
discretion.
On that, and I appreciate it very much.
That gives me some comfort. However, it seems to me this is not really very free market oriented when essentially somebody with an interest in the industry can put money into this fund, which is more or less purchased advertising. It's a manipulative move to put money into a state fund to legitimize the whole project, thereby drawing more investment, more use of the currency. And is that an appropriate use of the state fisc?
Well, I just kind of, as I answered earlier, for me personally, and again, you're the policymakers, but Glenn on his own to go accept a donation, whether it's in whatever that may be, I don't want to move markets. That's not my job, right?
So would you reject one because it's too big?
Well, we'll see what the parameters are in the legislation. I haven't actually thought all of these through. There's a lot of moving pieces, and this one over here has a big piece of legislation that has a role in us playing, and so therefore we got a lot of moving pieces. So I haven't thought through all this, but the point being is I would have a hard time imagining that it's something of that significant magnitude. Maybe, Senator, but I just don't.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Senator Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You said a while ago you thought even without this that you had the flexibility to invest in cryptocurrency already?
In our current endowments, yes, sir.
But you've chose not to.
We have slowly moved in as whether that is an option in the portfolio, whether that is part of the strategy that we should, but we have not to date, to answer your question. If ETFs, they just became approved, what was that, as of 24, sometime last year, as a tool, and then the SEC just had, that was it October or so of last year? So the point is, some of these options and some of the regulatory certainty has just occurred in less than 12 months. But so I don't think we would have done that before then, is my point.
But ETFs are investment in various companies.
That's correct.
Equities.
That is correct. That is correct.
It's like a mutual fund.
That is correct.
Yeah. So those, when you are dealing with whether it's Treasury bonds, state bonds, city bonds, school bonds, and whatever, those are all guaranteed by the good faith and credit of those entities, most of which have tax incentives.
As long as they have good credit, yes, sir.
Investments like gold have been recognized as a way to maintain value, not just centuries, but thousands of years. Do you buy any gold?
We don't have gold purchased today.
But we do have a strategic gold.
I have a yes, and we have stood that up, and it is operating effectively. Yes, sir.
Why did you not decide to buy any gold?
It is just not part of our portfolio, or even just to answer, we don't have a big position in, even though Texas is a big oil and gas state, we don't have a big position in oil and gas and commodities right now in our portfolio. So there's different reasons that at times for the different portfolios, we may increase or decrease part of that strategy, whether it's domestic investments, foreign investments, just all the different mixes.
And so cryptocurrency is backed up with what?
So I think like anything, I mean, the cryptocurrency, much like a lot of different assets that are out there, they're backed up by the people that have faith and believe in them, and it is holding up a value. The same in a company. A company produces something, but people have to believe in that company.
Yeah, companies produce things. Sometimes they make money, sometimes they lose money.
But my point being is they produce things, but people have faith in that brand that either goes up or goes down in that value.
You can continue making cryptocurrency. We constantly
up to a certain amount. In Bitcoin, that is, I should say. Bitcoin has a limit upon which.
Yeah, you hit the ultimate end of it.
That one does.
That particular one, as I understand it, and maybe it's one of these late night things I watched, but there's about 1 million of them missing. The guy that was originator of the whole thing, either he's lost his key or he passed away or whatever, but there's supposedly 1 million that are unaccounted for.
Nobody knows on him.
Which would have a value of over $1 trillion out there.
Probably so.
If we just, okay. All right, thank you.
Yes,
I don't own any. Thank you.
Can I add to that?
Yes, but before you do, Chairman, just want to remind everybody we're going to break in less than 10 minutes, and then we go to the floor at 11. So if you're here for any other bill, it's a good time to go get a brunch. Come back after a while. Senator Schwartner.
This whole discussion, and Senator Nichols rightly hits on it, is what is value? What is something that's considered a currency, or what is something of value? Warren Buffett is famous for saying that gold is just a shiny rock, right? But it has value in the eyes of the vast majority of people across the world.
Right.
Cryptocurrencies, historically, 5 years ago, we're seeing differently in the light of the federal government and in individuals. I would say cryptocurrencies have become mainstream by individuals and obviously in the financial markets. The SEC regulated ETFs don't invest in the companies that produce Bitcoin. They're not buying miners. They're not buying exchanges. They actually purchase Bitcoin, just like the GLD ETF, for instance, and they're massive ETFs. They're not small market cap ETFs. And again, the legitimacy at the presidential level, with the presidential working group on digital asset markets, with a stated goal of a strategic national digital asset stockpile, the United States Treasury classifying Bitcoin or referencing Bitcoin as digital gold in their published pieces of information. There is a shift and a change, and is brought about by spending and the value of the full faith and credit of the United States and other countries, which is something that is called into question. We always believe in the dollar, the green dollar, looking at a dollar, but you look at every country in the history of the world, their currency eventually goes to zero.
Senator Menendez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Comptroller Hager, thank you for being here, what you do for us. On the advisory committee, have you reviewed the makeup of the committee? Have you gone over it? Have you had a chance to look at it?
I have not. Well, my team and the senator's team have worked on this language together.
So currently it says you, a member of your investment advisory board, and 3 people who are experts in cryptocurrency.
Right.
I was wondering, since one of these members is already a member of your investment advisory, there's a part of me that would feel more comfortable, and I wanted to get your impression, how you felt. If you had 2 members of your investment advisory board and 2 crypto experts, and you would be like the tie-breaking on some sort of advice to move forward.
Well, the way I see this is obviously it's an advisory board.
Correct.
You know, we look for people who have expertise, who bring us information, and then we have a better set of information to make those prudent decisions off of. Now, we would, regardless of how the size is and the number of people or where they come from, we are going to go out and seek input from a wide range of people beyond that number. I mean, that is what we do on everything that we work on, any investment that we make on behalf of the state. We go out with a significant number of people. It's not just here at this number.
So I appreciate that. Are you concerned at all with the impression, and I'm agnostic at this point in terms of how y'all move forward, but I am concerned about the impression that we give the 31 million Texans that now the state of Texas is an investor in Bitcoin and must be safe. I should go buy some too. Are you concerned at all about that?
Well, I think that's part of maybe the questions, in part, not to speak for the senators and dean, is what is that appropriate level, the signal that you're sending. I think that we as the state, we already invest in a large number of things. So is that determined as, this one investment or that investment that we're making, is that what the people should do? We don't hold a big position in commodities, but we firmly believe in the oil and gas sector in Texas, right? So we're not trying to send a signal. It's just not where we have our investments today. So I'm not sure, Senator. I'm really not. I think. Let me say it this way: people will utilize things in any way that they want to, and we can't control that in today's world. But I'm not sure that it'll be filtered out to people in that way.
The reason I bring this up, I have a friend of mine who had a app Coinbase and had quite a bit of his Bitcoin stolen. Poof. Yeah. And he's not the only person that this has happened to. And so I am concerned. Yeah, it's just gone. The app was hacked and his Bitcoin's gone. And so my concern is that people see the state doing this, and as opposed to if you have gold bars or coins or stocks that your stockholders holding, that this would be easy for them to lose, and that's a concern.
And we've talked internally what would be the best way. Whether do we hold those keys? Do other parties? There's all these security issues, and whatever that we're going to work through to make sure it's as secure as it can be, at least from what we would have if y'all pass the bill.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I just want to add regarding that issue. Security is paramount. Custodianship,
right. On everything,
right? Gold bars, Fort Knox, where you store it, financial assets, dollars, actual hard currency, where you carry it, where you put it, on the mattress, and then financial assets in general.
That's not how we manage assets, just for the
record.
record.
Financial assets in general, two-factor authentication, and how standard financial assets, stocks, and actual dollar-denominated assets are transferred from one institution to another. There's always the potential for theft and for lack of proper custodial protocols. I believe in Texas, the comptroller's office is the most appropriate office to put in place the parameters for which a reserve has the most amount of safety and appropriateness regarding the safeguards.
Well, I'm going to break us there. This is a really, really interesting topic. We will stand, I guess, in recess.
Am I excused?
Members, is it okay if the comptroller not come back? He has a lot of work to do. All good with that?
Sorry, I just wanted clarification.
Yes. Trust me.
Thank you. Hey,
this time of the process, you're excused whenever you want to be.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Lee, if you don't mind, we're going to ask you to stick around, come back. We'll stand at ease or in recess until 1:30 or upon adjournment.
And that's a wrap for the morning session of the Senate Committee on Business and Commerce out of Austin, Texas. So a fascinating topic, this entire crypto discussion, creating these reserves, something that might be followed by other states and something that President Trump has pledged to do federally, as we saw the clips from July with the Nashville Bitcoin conference. We had the pleasure of being joined by Les Bordai. He is an expert on all things crypto and this entire world of government integration into a potential new currency. We'll toss that to that interview live now and enjoy some of his comments. Government crypto advisor and co-founder of Wave Digital Services. And sir, thank you for joining Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. We've had the Texas Senate discussing Senate Bill 21 and their use of establishing a crypto reserve commission. What are your thoughts on this, as this seems to be changing American currency and really our digital and financial landscape?
I mean, all of it's really exciting. I've been in digital currencies for about a decade now. The company we formed was, 2018, and this administration has changed everything in a matter of months versus the decade that I've been in digital currency, and it's exciting to see it move so fast, because ultimately what happens is we keep innovation in this country, and that's actually a really important factor that the last administration didn't think too much about, given the regulatory approach. But in terms of what Texas is doing, and I think 20 other states are doing right now, it's a bit of a variation. Some of them want to establish a Bitcoin reserve. Some of them want to establish a digital currency reserve, as the executive order states, and there's a significant difference there. And a lot of these hearings are about purchasing, so that's why they're looking for approval. But there are other opportunities that are arising where we take a look at seized currencies in these states and how can they be used in a different way once they're forfeited. So there's a lot of nuance happening around these assets.
Now, how will tariffs affect this? And I'm somewhat green on the process of crypto reserves specifically. I understand that the U.S. Marshals have to be involved in order to establish something like that. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, you're hitting, so I'll touch back on tariffs in a second, because you're actually hitting on a point that is far more important than tariffs. And for me, it really ties into what DOGE is doing right now. So I know we're a little all over the place, so let me tie it together. The U.S. Marshal Service in 2019 was tasked with being the agency that decides who will handle these assets, who will liquidate these assets. And really, initially what they were looking for was just a custodian and maybe some sort of technical solution. The problem was, there's a lot more to it. You can't just hold them. If you are going to do things with these complex assets, you actually have to be registered to do that. And there was a report that came out by one of the inspector generals, who's actually still there. He wasn't let go in 2022, talking about all of the inefficiencies at the U.S. Marshal Service and why they can't do this. So I think, with this administration really looking at great detail of how this should be handled, the truth is, the president has brought in some really good and capable people, and Bo Hines and others. But what they're going to ultimately, hopefully do is move it from the U.S. Marshal Service to Treasury, where they actually understand financial assets. I always, kind of make it akin to, you don't really see the U.S. Marshals, grabbing a sign and selling a piece of real estate. So why would they, if they're going to be real, it's just insanity to me. They're going to bring realtors in, for those processes. But these assets are so much more complex that, the fact that they think they can manage them is a little bit crazy.
Very interesting. It's really something that's on the, I think, front of people's minds as they're looking to hedge their bets against inflation. What's your advice for the average investor in regards to Bitcoin and crypto, and just using that as a diversification within their own savings?
Sadly, as a registered investment advisor, I don't know that I can actually give complete investment advice, but here's what I can say. For an investor, do your research. These products can be risky, and, take your time trying to understand them. And that's what I did for many years. Really, the way to look at all of them is it's another asset class, and any asset class has a, level of risk. And it's about your personal risk threshold. But there's a lot of information out there on these products now, so you can take the time to learn what they do. And what's really interesting about them that I think people don't understand, because they usually lump cryptocurrency into one basket, is many different currencies, do many different things. I mean, we hear a lot about Ripple and XRP, a company I've been an advisor to since 2013. And, that's something that works with financial markets, with some of the things they're trying to accomplish, where, we hear a lot about meme coins and how, what the treatment of those are going to be. And they really have no value at all, other than collectible in some cases. Yeah. So for an investor, what I would say, is in terms of a hedge, I'll just answer your question. That was always kind of the point of cryptocurrencies. But what we found, I think, is they're very correlated to financial markets. And that probably was a bit of a surprise to a lot of people.
Do you believe that other states will follow Texas with establishing these kind of reserves or even committees?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, again, there's about maybe 20 states right now that are bringing legislation forward, and it differs. I know Wyoming brought it forward and it didn't pass, which is really interesting, but I don't think they really pushed for it. And I think, if we take a look at the members, even going back to some of the first congressional hearings, we're in a very different place right now. The members back then, there was a lot of resistance, especially on the left. And we're in a different place right now. These are things that can be used for good, and I think cryptocurrencies have always had this reputation for being evil, being for drug dealers, and it's just not the case. Digital currencies that can generate revenue through financial instruments with traditional finance connected to it, whether that's distribution or coming up with interesting new financial products. There's a big, wide world out there.
So fascinating. Thank you, Les Borsai. You are a government crypto advisor, co-founder of the Wave Digital Assets. We look forward to having you on Right Side Broadcasting Network Live, sir, once again, and thank you for taking the time today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And such an interesting topic for everyone as this continues to evolve in the United States and abroad. If you're just joining us, I'm Robert McNeely. We are getting close to noon o'clock on the East Coast, of course, just shy of 9 o'clock on the West Coast in California. Covering the latest from the Trump White House, we know that the president will be signing executive orders from the Winter White House at Mar-a-Lago around 4 o'clock today. We'll be wrapping this broadcast, but stick with us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live for any breaking news and also some coverage of potential votes today in the United States Senate and a traditional reading of George Washington's farewell address, as they were not in session yesterday with President's Day as a federal holiday, but that is something that is done every year in the U.S. Congress, and we'll find that in the Senate at 3 o'clock Eastern today. We'd like to thank our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, of course, Colonial Metals Group. It's the place to go when you're looking to diversify your assets, and whether it's properties or your 401k, IRA, you've got to get the gold, silver, and precious metals backed by this incredible group. Do you know that gold has gone up over 7,000% since 1971 between then and last year, 2024? Never gone down, only up ever since the Nixon administration stopped the gold standard. So you have patriots like Judge Jeanine Pirro, Larry Kudlow, and others who have endorsed this great company. So scan your QR code now for your free 2025 gold guide, and even Warren Buffett taking his assets and investments out of the stock market, moving that into gold and silver commodities. Colonial Metals Group. Of course, Paul Stone will be on later this week to hear from him on all the expert analysis of why gold will diversify and be your hedge against inflation. How about American Financing? They can save you $800 per month. And if you call today, you can get 2 months free. So that's $1,600 on average savings for your home, your townhome, whatever you do own in properties. Save that average of $800 today by visiting americanfinancing.net/RSBN. And thank you to mypillow.com/RSBN. We have the mega sale happening right now. Mr. Mike Lindell with the My Cross. 30% off My Towels, a 6-pack for $29.98. How about those flannel sheets? $44.98. Wonderful to get your day started. They even have things like My Coffee, My Slippers, all great for your morning and a great night's sleep. I really enjoyed the My Pillows personally. Call 800-836-7566, mypillow.com/RSBN, an easy promo code to remember. Close to 80% off of everything at mypillow.com/RSBN. Proudly made in the USA. Also items that are some of the best in the world, including those Giza Dream Sheets, the cotton, really some of the best, most comfortable fabric you can have for a good night's rest. mypillow.com/RSBN. Thank you to Mr. Mike Lindell and his operation out of Minnesota. Of course, on our triple screen here, the United States Capitol and the People's House, the White House. We're covering the latest of President Trump Vice President Vance, the 119th Congress inside the Beltway and outside the Beltway. Stick with us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. We'll be back with you in the afternoon unless there is breaking news, so stay tuned. We will be back with you around that 2 o'clock Eastern mark today. For everyone here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live, I'm Robert McNeely. Have a blessed day, and we'll see you later this afternoon.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
Families across the nation have arrived at a heartbreaking crossroad to surrender their beloved animals at alarming rates due to inflation and soaring costs of living.
There are so many overcrowded shelters. So many dogs need a home, but it's all of us working together to solve this crisis.
This fight requires both doers and dollars. Join us at Big Dog Ranch Rescue. Please sign up today.